You have heard the number. 70% of lottery winners go broke. It shows up in finance seminars, tabloid captions, every cautionary tale about unearned money. It's fabricated. No study, no registry, no data behind it anywhere. The number simply doesn't exist. The real baseline bankruptcy rate among lottery winners is under 6%, roughly the general population. If the story stopped there, the lesson would be reassuring. The curse is a myth. Worry about something else. That is not where the real data leads. It is where it starts. In 2011, a study linked Florida lottery winner records directly to bankruptcy court filings, comparing people who won between $50,000 and $150,000 against people who won less than $10,000. Same lottery, same population, same pre-existing habits. Only the size of the check differed. For the first 2 years, the money worked. Large winners were 50% less likely to file for bankruptcy. Real, measurable solvency. Then, between years 3 and 5, the bankruptcy rate for large winners didn't drift upward. It accelerated. By year 5, it had fully converged with the small winners. The advantage was gone. Here is the detail that should stop you. When the large winners eventually filed, their net assets and unsecured debts were statistically indistinguishable from winners who had received a fraction of the money. People who had enough to erase their debt forever instead spent it to zero on almost exactly the same timeline as if the money had never arrived. The money did not prevent the bankruptcy. It delayed it. Call it the invisible burn rate, a financial trajectory already in motion. The cash pauses it. It doesn't erase it, and it doesn't care whether the trajectory belongs to a lottery winner, an heir, or someone whose equity just vested all at once. It just runs quietly underneath the euphoria until the money is gone and picks back up exactly where it left off. In 2011, the same year as that Florida data, a computer operator named Sushil Kumar won roughly $1 million on an Indian television quiz show. His invisible burn rate is one of the clearest on record. We are coming back to exactly what happened to him. Start with what happened inside Sushil Kumar's brain on the day he won, because it is the same thing that happens inside every windfall recipient's brain, and it is where the delay comes from. A gradual gain, a raise, a steady return produces a proportional dopamine response because the brain can predict it coming. A sudden windfall breaks that prediction completely. Neuroscientists call the gap between what you expected and what actually happened. A reward prediction error and a lottery win is one of the largest a human brain can experience, jolting the reward system by some estimates many times faster than an ordinary win. That flood recalibrates the brain's baseline almost immediately. Once it fades, ordinary pleasures no longer clear the new elevated bar. The person doesn't feel wealthy. They feel strangely flat, and they escalate spending to chase the feeling back. That shock happens to every brain, rich or poor, disciplined or not. What isn't universal is the defense against it. Some people already have structure in place that absorbs the hit. Most don't, and for most, what follows is brutally predictable. A euphoric stretch where the math feels optional, spending with no boundaries until the account balance stops cooperating. A second mechanism runs underneath the first. Money that arrives as a windfall gets mentally filed differently than money you earned, treated as disposable in a way a paycheck never is. The same instinct behind why casino winnings get better way faster than a salary would. And your sense of what counts as enough resets to match your new spending almost immediately. A renovated house, a new circle of friends becomes the baseline within months. Stepping back down from that baseline is coded by the brain not as returning to normal, but as an active loss, and losses tend to register more heavily than equivalent gains feel good. So the spending doesn't stop. The mind isn't being reckless. It is defending a number it has already decided is the floor. Call it repricing reality. The brain quietly redraws the line for normal, then defends the new line as if it always belonged there. There is a reason it resets this fast, and a reason it is so hard to say no to the people around you once it does. For most of human history, resources arrived gradually or not at all, and survival often depended on sharing them within a tribe. Food, shelter, protection, pooled and redistributed as a matter of course. A brain wired for that environment doesn't have a clean instinct for, I have a sudden surplus and I am allowed to keep it. Sudden, visible abundance triggers something closer to obligation than ownership. That instinct is part of what made it so hard for Sushil Kumar to draw a line. He tried to step into the role of philanthropist, moving through a relentless circuit of donations and public appearances. He lacked the financial footing to tell a genuine opportunity from someone treating his new wealth as an opening, and requests for money followed him into his own home, straining his marriage. This is not unique to one unlucky man. A study of a lottery that pays every household on a randomly selected street found that when one household's new car appeared in the driveway, the non-winning neighbor's bankruptcy rate rose measurably over the following 2 years, driven by neighbors taking on debt just to visibly keep pace. Kumar's living room was that driveway. The tribe leans in exactly when the brain is least equipped to say no. Moving in new social circles in Delhi, surrounded by students and artists whose backgrounds made him feel intellectually out of place, Kumar leaned on alcohol and cigarettes to cope. The money didn't survive the honeymoon. It was gone within a few years, and he was, by his own account, selling milk from 2 cows to get by before eventually returning to work as a teacher, close to where he'd started. What would have changed that ending? Not more money. A windfall amplifies whatever was already running. It doesn't replace it. Structure changes the trajectory more reliably than discipline ever does. And it has to be. Structure the winner cannot personally override once the shock hits, because a hijacked reward system will not enforce its own rules. This is the flaw in just be disciplined with a windfall. You're asking the exact system that just got hijacked to police itself. An annuity paid out over 20 or 30 years works precisely because the winner has no say in speeding it up. A winner can fully collapse into the honeymoon phase and burn through 1 year's payment completely, and next year's still hasn't arrived because no decision of theirs can move it. That principle isn't exclusive to jackpots. A signing bonus, an inheritance, equity that vests all at once, a business sale, every one of these carries the identical psychology, and almost none of them come with a built-in annuity. So the moment you know a windfall is coming, before it lands and while your judgment is still your own, is the time to build one, a trust or a structured account, where release of funds is governed by a rule or a third party you've already agreed to, not by a decision you get to make later in the moment the honeymoon phase hits. That is also where financial literacy actually earns its keep, not as willpower in the moment, but as foresight beforehand. People who understand debt, diversification, and tax exposure are the ones who set the structure up while they can still think clearly, before the reward prediction era arrives and makes that kind of thinking much harder. And what a person does with the freedom that structure allows still depends on what the money means to them. The people most likely to convert a windfall into a stream of visible, depleting purchases are the ones who had already linked their net worth to their self-worth long before any windfall arrived. The money didn't create that link. It just put a very large, very fast-moving spotlight on it. None of this makes sudden wealth a curse. A set of national registry studies tracking $250 million in prize money over decades found something the myth never predicted. Winners report a real, sustained rise in life satisfaction that does not fade with time. Male winners see a 40% drop in 10-year divorce risk, a stabilizing effect. Female winners see a short-term rise in divorce in the first 2 years, which researchers read not as money breaking a marriage, but as a financial independence giving women the means to leave one that was already failing. And by the 10-year mark, that elevated rate fully normalizes. Money bought options, not misery. The honest version of this story was never that money destroys people. It removes a constraint, and whatever is underneath that constraint, a stable identity or a fragile one, good habits or none, is what determines the outcome. Sushil Kumar's constraint was removed for a few years and then quietly put back. The lottery doesn't create your relationship with money. It reveals it at a speed and a scale most of us will never have to survive. And the only real defense is building the annuity before the reveal, not after it. If this changed how you think about money, new research goes up every week on the Money Brain. Each video explores the behavioral, economics, and psychology behind financial decisions most people never question. Subscribe if that's the kind of thinking you want more of. The studies and sources behind this video are linked in the description.